Hello.
Hello AOS fans,
It's the Agents of Sigmar.
and in this video we're looking at Horrified D&D, brought to you by Ravensburger Games. So, Horrified is a series of games, and this is a new version of it. It's D&D themed, it's for 1 to 5 players, it's a co-op game, it's fully compatible with the other Horrified games if you've got them. We don't have any of the Horrified games. I played the original one once, but I've been playing Horrified D&D with my family. I had a go with Pete, and it's a fun little game, and we're going to tell you all about it. I do have to say thank you very much to Ravensburger for sending us a copy of the game to look at. Pete and I effectively started our journey of D&D and Warhammer, playing D&D a long time ago, so it's quite nice to get right back to our roots in that respect.
So this version is the latest in the line of Horrified games, the D&D version. It's a co-op game for 1 to 5 players. You can play solo, or you can have up to 5 people to fall out with.
Absolutely. It's the first of the Horrified sets to have a D20, which you can tell it's D&D themed because it's a D20, and I have to say, it might be one of the nicest D20s I've ever seen. Look at that.
D20s are nice anyway.
They are.
But this is exceptionally nice.
20.
And you got a 20. There we go. Game over. It's got the lovely little D&D symbol on there as well on the 20, which is very fitting.
Yeah, I really like it. But there's more to that game than just the D20. So the other game is to explore the map here. It's Waterdeep. It's set in the D&D Forgotten Realms Waterdeep, and you've got the Underdark, and you've got places like the Yawning Portal Tavern and Skull Island. We played a Waterdeep campaign a really long time ago, once upon a time.
Many years ago.
So I remember the Yawning Portal in particular. And you basically, you explore the map, you collect treasure, you might meet some citizens of the Underdark or Waterdeep, and you have to help them on their way to wherever they want to get to. And of course, you have to fight some monsters, which are all beautifully rendered in brightly coloured plastic. The moulds are actually quite nice, I think.
It's made of that kind of like flexible plastic.
Yeah.
The dragon especially is incredibly well sculpted. It's not like multiple bits stuck together.
No.
That's all one piece, which is incredibly impressive considering it's on a base and everything.
It's pretty clever. They're quality enough you could paint them if you wanted to,
Yeah.
but they're coloured so you don't have to if you don't want to. So we've got the red dragon, which is the hardest one to fight.
You've got a little
Mimic
there.
And there's a Displacer Beast and a classic Beholder. The Displacer Beast is the weakest of them, and the red dragon is the strongest. And you can fight any of the monsters in any combination when you play the game. And as I said at the beginning, you can, if you've got monsters from other Horrified versions, you can apparently put them together, have them roaming around the Underdark or whatever, and play against them too.
We played a game with just the Displacer Beast and the Beholder, and that was it wasn't easy, but it was probably one of the easiest.
That's what
settings.
they recommend was what you start with.
Yeah.
Each of them has its own little challenge, side quest to do to defeat them. You have to kind of do different things to defeat each of them, and the Red Dragons is really quite involved with hunting for lairs and even solving a little puzzle, which is quite clever because it's different each time you do it. So there's various little in-game games to play in order to defeat the various monsters.
For the 5 players, you have to pick one of the 5 classes, and they're all pretty much the most thematic ones and most recognised from D&D.
You've traditional D&D ones.
You've got the Rogue, the Bard, the Wizard, the Fighter, and the Cleric. So you've got pretty much all your bases covered. You've got your spells, you've got your bashing, you've got your healing, all that kind of stuff. And each of these fighters has a little table on there that pretty much determines if you want to use their special ability, what that special ability is with the help of a D20.
They all behave in mostly the same way, except they all have a different special ability, and we'll cover that in a bit more detail later.
Unlike the bad guys, they are on little standees, so they're just little cardboard cutouts. There's obviously nothing stopping you getting a model from somewhere.
No, if you've got them, if you play a lot of D&D or whatever, or you've got models you can represent them with. There are citizens in the game as well, and they are little cardboard standees. So if you had a really extensive set of miniatures, you could even use standees for those, except they do have an important piece of text as where they want to get to, which is all part of the game, which again we should be covering shortly.
So one of the other main elements of this game is treasure tokens.
Wouldn't be D&D without treasure.
And the treasure tokens come in this little funky little bag, held together with some Velcro.
Quite noisy Velcro.
Very nice Velcro. And they have all different kinds of things. So you've got a long sword, you've got a shovel, you've got a candle, amulet. I'm not going to read them all out, but there's loads of different types of treasure in there.
It's worth knowing there are caltrops in there.
Caltrops,
that sort of thing. And they have different colours on them and different numbers on them. And again, they're covered in the mechanics of the game. Certain things only key off certain colour items, and that's why they're colour coordinated.
The only problem is that the Horrified Haversack it's kind of plasticky. It would have been nice to just have a little pouch of some kind of cloth.
Yeah, it would have been nicer.
It'll do a job,
Yeah.
but it's not quite as nice as having a little drawstring bag. Yeah.
A little bit disappointing. And there's a couple of other things in the box. And there's a couple of tokens. One is to denote on the track. This is the terror track, and if you get to the end, then it's the end of the game. It's
game
so
over,
each
man.
time because the fighters, they can be killed, but they don't die. They end up just respawning back in the yawning portal. But each time one of them dies, then this goes up. And similarly, each time one of the citizens dies, this goes up. So if you've got a lot of citizens on the board, things can go south quite quickly. There's also another little token here, which is little flames, and that represents the frenzy monster, which when you have two, all the monsters have a frenzy rating. One of them, the one with the lowest rating, is the frenzy monster, and again that will be keyed off when you're deciding which monster does what, and I'll explain again later on what that is. But they're the most of the tokens. There are a few other miscellaneous tokens to do with the quests and whatever. We're not going to talk about those very much because we don't want to spoil how the game works for you, because half of the fun of it is finding that out for yourself. A deck of cards. This is the monster deck, and it has various things that do with the monsters.
This is another deck which has I can't remember what they're called now.
They're called the perk cards.
Perk cards, and these have all like one-use things that will help you in the game. There's lots of known characters in here, like Dristuard and stuff like that anybody who's a fan of the setting will be very familiar with, and they'll give you lots of in-game bonuses that you get one use of and then you have to get rid of.
And they are absolutely key, particularly when it gets more difficult to completing the game. They are really, really useful. You do get some rules. They're actually very thin, so it's actually quite an easy game to learn. So easy that Pete and I managed to learn it in one evening. So they're good. They're well written, and then each of the monsters has a little card, which is like a little. It's like it says it's the bestiary of Voltham Gedam, and each of the monsters has how they work. So that's the beholder there, and it has their instructions written on. This actually is written in handwritten text. It's a little bit difficult to read, but it's all in the manual, written out again, so you can see, you can read it more clearly. But everything is there.
It's a nice touch, but it is a little bit tricky to read. Yeah. But it does give you all of the information about the monsters, how they act, and so on. Another thing you get is obviously 3 dice, which are representative of when the beast, whichever one it is, attacks you, and you roll dice, and it's pretty simple. When you get explosions, you take damage, and when you take damage, you lose treasure tokens. Yeah. If you lose all your treasure tokens, then you die, and the tracker moves on, and you go back to the Chasm. So we're going to show you how to set up a game of Horrified D&D and how it basically plays out.
Pretty easy.
Yeah.
So first thing you do is you stack the board down. Bam! It's very nice. Got a purple pink beholder on the back. I do like
the beholder pink background. It's very nice.
It's really cool. And then you've got this map of Waterdeep and the Undermountain and the arcane chambers and such like. And we'll talk about how you move around it in a second. But basically, when you're setting it up, you have to put your terror marker on 0, unless you're playing a one-player game, and that goes on 3. But we're going to talk about multiplayer games. I haven't played a one-player game. So you put that on there. You shuffle your monster deck up, put that by the board, and then you decide which monsters you want to play. So Pete and I, we're going to play the Displacer Beast and the Beholder, and it says on the card, but let's just say that it goes on Skull Island. I think the Displacer Beast went somewhere over here.
It went over there.
So they start where they possibly actually start in the places where there are lair tokens.
Yes.
Which is one of the other things you put down. You have to put down lair tokens. They are face down, and they have little ampersands on the back, D&D ampersands, and they really only use for the Red Dragon quest, because only the Red Dragon has a lair that you need to discover. They all roam around, but you need to find the Red Dragon's lair, because as part of the Red Dragon quest you lure it back. I'm pretty sure you don't really need them for the other monsters. There is an action, we'll come on to action in a second, there is an action for searching for lair, but it's like, well, there's no point, because there's literally
because you've got no dragon to look for the lair of.
Exactly.
So once you've done that, you then need to pick your heroes and put them on their starting locations.
Yep, so for example, the cleric starts at
the Castle of Waterdeep.
So cleric is the bluey coloured one, and put it on Castle of Waterdeep.
Who we got next?
What about the bard?
The bard. So he starts at the Yawning Portal tap room.
Just singing the song, presumably. I'm not going to go through them all, but we said at the beginning there's the 5 different classes, and they all start at the same place, and they all work in roughly the same way. So when they're on the board, you then shuffle your perk cards, and everybody gets 1 each. So you all start with 1, and like I say, they're really useful. So for example, this one is Otto Steel Toes, and he can add or subtract up to 4 from any player's D20 dice roll.
That could be quite good.
Yeah, and it can be used on the monster dice rolls as well, so that is really useful, because like D&D always is, the better you roll, the better the effect. And if you can get your roll up to 20 or over, you normally get to draw a new perk card, and really good things tend to happen. So, you're looking to try and get the score up to 20.
I've got the Black Staff, which enables you to choose a hero, and each other hero may give that hero 2 items. Now, you can only normally give people items when you're in the same place as them, so it's really handy if they're about to fight the monster to get everybody to give them loads of items, so because you're going to use those items. That's the main way in which you will defeat the monster, is using items to do stuff.
And talking of items, the other thing you have to do when you're setting up the board is you put out 12 items from the Horrified Haversack.
Horrified Haversack. I do have some here. So in this case, we've got a potion that goes in Troll Skull Alley. We've got an abandoned camp for a longsword.
Abandoned camp. So yes, each item has written on it where it goes.
So we're going to quickly put these 12 down and we'll come back. So there we go. We've set up all our locations, so we've got them placed all in various areas. Some places you get more than others. So the Dragon's platform has got 3 on it, and you've got some others dotted around all over
I haven't
the
checked
place.
the distribution, whether there's an equal number of
Not
each.
done the maths on that
I don't
one.
know, but they can come out obviously anywhere. So then you've set that up, and then you're ready to go.
So you do get cards in the box which will tell you what all the phases are in a turn, and it gives you all the actions on the back of it as well, which makes it nice and easy. You haven't got to try and remember anything or keep leafing through a rule book. No. It's all in front of you.
So basically the game's split into two phases. There's the hero phase and the monster phase, and those happen for each player. Picker goes first, and then they'll do their thing, and then the monsters will have a go, and then the next player will have a go, and then the monsters will have another go, and so on. So it's a one-to-one thing. It's not like all the characters move and then the monsters do their stuff. Each time a hero moves, a monster will have a go as well. But what can the hero do? So each card has the number of actions on it, and they're all 4. So I don't know whether we might see an expansion with different number of actions, or whether maybe in the other sets they have different numbers of actions.
I was going to say, maybe the heroes in the other sets have
but
lower.
yeah, if everybody has 4 actions, and you can do the actions in any order. You can choose any order you do them in, and you can do each thing that you can do multiple times in a turn. So the first one, and the easiest probably, is move. So you can move up to 4 times if you want to.
So if I want to move 4, I could move to here for 1, and then this has a special teleport in that it moves down to this one. That would be my second move. So whilst it isn't connected, like most of the zones are, I can move there to 2, I can then move to 3 to there, and 4 across there. But you have to make sure you follow one of these tracks each time. And there's a lot of games that use that kind of mechanics. So that's pretty simple and intuitive.
He hasn't got another action, but there is a card that can give you extra actions. Yep. Imagine you had another one. He's on a teleportation circle, and he can teleport using one move to any other teleportation circle on the board. So he can go to there. There are 4 distinct zones on the board. There's this one up here, there's this one here, and there's a little one here and a little one here. Well, I know what to get. That one is to teleport. These have little staircases between them, and there's a staircase down there as well, and then you can go all the way across there. So you can get anywhere on the board.
You're within like about 4 moves of most places on the board.
Teleportation circles, it's nowhere is very far, which is key when being chased by a monster.
Yeah, you think they're miles off, and then they turn out they're not.
And they're not. One of the other things you'll be doing a lot in the game is picking up items.
Yeah.
So let's say, for sake of argument, Pete was actually on the Dragon's platform. Woo-hoo! He can pick up the items. Yeah, I'm not going there. It's dangerous.
There are 3 items in this zone, and you don't have to expend 3 actions to do that. You can expend 1 and pick all 3 up.
Yeah, you don't have to pick them all up, but largely you would.
Yeah, I don't think there's been many scenarios where you haven't wanted to pick stuff, because there's no maximum. It's like the old games of D&D when you were 12, you were carrying around 15 broadswords in your backpack. You can
carry as much as you like.
Yeah, there is absolutely no encumbrance in this game, so you can have them all.
But just in case you have got too many, you are allowed to share them, which is another action. So you can share. And the funny thing about share is you can only share with people in your square. But if you're playing a 3-player game, you're all on the same square. You can say, I'm going to use the share action, and the other 2 players can share items while you just sit there doing nothing. So that's quite nice. But basically, sharing enables people to move items between one another.
So if Robin were here, I could share on one of my actions.
Thank you.
And give him one of them.
And that can be important because sometimes people haven't got any items, and items, as we'll see later, is really important for staying alive and really important for attacking and defeating monsters. So if it was going to be my go next and I didn't have the right items, Pete could give them to me so that I can then go and do something with them. Possibly the most confusing named action in the game is the advance action, because it sort of sounds like you're moving somewhere, but you're not really, because what you're actually doing is advancing the demise of the monster.
Yeah.
So you're basically, when you take an advance action, you do something to the monster, which means you can then defeat it. Each monster has several steps, some more convoluted than others, that need to be taken in order to defeat them. And by advancing, you're basically advancing down the steps that you've taken. So in the case of the Displacer Beast, if you want to, you're in the same square as the Displacer Beast, you want to try and defeat it, you advance first, and then you basically take one of your items and you put it on the little chart that it's got, and that covers over D20 numbers. And then when you've got covered at least 5 of them, you can then try and defeat it, which is another action. Defeat, you roll a D20 and you compare the ones that you've taken over, and if you roll one that is still showing, you fail, and if you roll one that's covered, then you succeed. So that sounds a little bit complicated. It's not. Basically, you keep putting items on here until it's mostly covered up, and then you can defeat it.
You roll the dice when you've got like nearly all of it covered,
Yeah.
and you get something that's covered over, and then you can defeat
Then
it.
it is defeated. But advance and defeat are separate actions and normally require a separate thing to be done.
And they're both related to interacting with the monster itself.
Yeah.
So you can only do it when you're in the same space as the monster. Another basic action is reveal, where if you're in a location that has one of the lair tokens, you can turn it over and basically find out if you found the lair.
We haven't used that at all. It's only useful, I think, for the red dragon. But the main thing is, Pete, is you can also do
You could do a special action.
Ooh.
And this is pretty much where the heroes shine, literally, almost.
Although, spoiler alert, the special action ain't always that special.
It's not fantastic, no. So they all have a table on which you would roll your d20, and each fighter has something specific to their class, but it's not really that specific to their class.
No. So, for example, the cleric is probably the most specific.
It is probably the most specific. So you always have the on a 1 no effect, nothing happens, and on a 20 you have something that generally is quite special, but you also then gain a perk card. So you want to be rolling 20s. Yeah, always want to be rolling 20s. In the cleric's case, you have other values such as during the monster phase, you can re-roll a dice with a hit or a power result, which is the little red dice, which could be damaging your friends. So again, it's a bit like the cleric's helping people.
It's effectively a heal kind of thing, yeah.
You've got another one during the monster phase for heroes defeated. Do not move the terror marker on. So again, that's great. So even if you did die, you kind of didn't die, it didn't move it on, so you've got another chance to survive.
Because strategic dying actually sometimes is really useful.
Yeah, sometimes you're okay with it, and then you resurrect back at the pub.
The cleric, I think, and the fighter, they affect things that happen in the monster turn, or can do. The other things, they happen immediately. So, for example, the bard, if you roll a 2 to 8, you can move all citizens up to 2 locations towards you. So you end up with citizens on the board, you can move them all towards you. Or if you're lucky enough to move a 20, you can move any citizen or hero to your location and gain a perk card. So that could be great. They are quite good sometimes, although if you don't roll the wrong number, they can be really useless. The cleric ones and the fighter ones, sometimes you can roll it and then the monster doesn't do what you want it to do, so you've effectively wasted that completely. I have to say, and this would be my wash-up at the end of the game as well, I find these, maybe they'd be too overpowered if they were really strong, I find these a little bit overwhelming, and it very, very rarely feels like it's worth doing the special action, with the possible exception of the wizard, which can be amazing, but at the same time can also really kick you in the crotch.
There's no lightning bolts and there's no fireballs here on this wizard. He is a teleporter. Basically, all of his abilities teleport him around the board, and it might either teleport him around, it might teleport another hero around, it might teleport any hero to any location you want, but quite often it's a random location. And as we found in our games a lot, I would, with my wizard, go, I'm going to teleport, and I'd roll my dice, and I'd go, bloop.
1 square.
You could also potentially move a monster, so you might go, I'm going to teleport the monster. Bloop. And then you're really in trouble sometimes.
Yes,
so
you could be like, I'm going to save my friend by teleporting the monster, and then teleport it to another friend who's in far worse trouble,
and in
or
fact,
worse, to yourself.
In our game once, I did teleport Robin right next to me, and the monster was right next to me, and then I teleported away.
Yes, thanks for
Good
that.
luck with that. Bye. The rogue can be quite handy because when you take damage, you effectively lose equipment tokens. They go into a discard pile, and the rogue's a lot of his abilities are to do with stealing those tokens back from the discard pile, which can be very handy when you want specific colours.
Arguably, if you can roll the right numbers, the rogue is the MVP.
Yeah, I think so. The hero with some of the most questionable stats is the fighter, because you might find on one of the rolls, you basically just go and charge off and attack the monster, whether you're ready or not. So you can find yourself thinking, yeah, maybe I'll be able to do this. No, I'm going to attack the monster. Fantastic. I mean, it's quite in keeping with all our games of D&D.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's form a plan. No, I'm going to charge in.
Yeah. Or we do form a plan, and then we charge in anyway.
Yeah. Again, with all the other actions, the special action can be done 4 times if you like. So if you don't quite teleport to where you want the first time, you can teleport again the next time.
Or maybe not.
And the next time again.
You might roll the rubbish thing and not go where you want to go.
Exactly. So it can be really, really swingy. And as Robin said earlier, quite often you just think, well, I know I just want to move, or I know I just want to go and pick up those items. And most of the time you just end up doing that, which kind of feels a little lacking, a little sad that you've got this really cool ability and you're never going to use it really, because it's most of the time just not reliable.
Yeah, which is a shame. I don't know what they could do to make it better, but I just kind of feel like you want to be able to, you want to use this more often than you actually do. I think it's because sometimes you can just roll something that's really underwhelming and it's not worth it.
No.
You might as well have a guaranteed pick of an item or move an item. So apart from the rogue, because it is worth gambling on, getting stuff out the discard pile sometimes.
After a hero's had his 4 turns and is finished on his go, as Robin mentioned, it's the monster's turn.
Yeah, just to start the monster phase, the person who's just finished their turn, they are the active player. They draw a monster card. Ba-ba. And here is a monster card. Ooh. I've drawn the card Savage Hunt. Now, the first thing you do, and this is the thing I always forget to do, is you put out the number of items that it says in the top right-hand corner of the card. Because I think you're normally so excited about what's going to happen with this monster. Because it normally can be crucial, because if the beast that's sitting on your square is the one that activates, then you might die.
And if you've got no treasure tokens, you're stuck.
You get excited about that. But actually, the first thing you just do is look at the number. This is only number 1. So you would have a rummage in the haversack and put a new item out. And that's basically how you replenish the items. And then you would look and see what sort of card it is, whether it's a monster action or whether it might be a citizen. I'll go into citizens in a second. This is a monster action, which is the Savage Hunt. So you have to move each sword monster 2 locations towards the closest hero or citizen. What the heck is a sword monster, I hear you ask?
Monster with a sword.
Well, down the side of the cards, the monsters have little icons that determine what sort of monster they are. So the Beholder has a frenzy of 4, compared with the Displacer Beast, who has a frenzy of 1. And then they have a shield, a little witch's hat, and a book. And
the Displacer Beast has a sword, a skull, and a witch's hat.
Yeah, so this card would move just the Displacer Beast 2 locations towards the closest hero or citizen.
So in this situation, if the Displacer Beast was here and we were in these locations here, it would just go blomp one across to us there. If I was over here somewhere, then it would go blomp blomp to Robin.
Hello.
If Robin happened to be over here and it was over here, it would have to go 1, 2, and that would be its turn over with. But on its next turn, it would then be able to sort of teleport to any one of the locations that it wanted to go to and then continue chasing after us.
Now that was just the sword monster, or just one monster in this case. It might activate both. So if it was Witch's Hat, both of these have got little witches or wizard's hats on them. So then they would both move. So then the Beholder would move too as well. So you can be suddenly swamped.
It can be very tricky when you get that and have that initial thought of, right, so we've got to activate. Which ones are we activating? Because sometimes it will tell you to activate the Savage one.
Yeah.
And the Savage one might also be the one that has the sword on it or whatever. You're just sitting there trying to go, wait, which one is the one we want to do again?
It can be a bit like that, because after it's done that, you then actually do the bottom bit of the card, which is a whole load of monster stuff again. And this is the one which chooses the frenzy or not frenzy. If it's the not frenzy monster, he's not moving this time. If it is the frenzied monster, then the frenzied monster will move and then attack. So in this case, it's not the frenzied monster, but let's just imagine that it was. So the frenzied monster would move, so that would be the Displacer Beast would move again, and it's got a little foot, which means his movement value, he would move 1, and then he would then, if he was on a square with Pete, he would then do the dice attack, which is 2, so he would roll 2 dice to attack, and we'll cover the attack in a second. Assuming the frenzy monster does attack, it then moves on to the next symbol, which is the little magic wand. None of these have got a magic wand, so they wouldn't do anything, and we'd be breathing a huge sigh of relief, because the frenzy monster doesn't do anything, and the magic wand monster does something, but we haven't got one, so nobody does anything, and we'd be like, phew. But a worst case scenario, supposing it was a frenzied monster and a witch's hat monster, basically the Displacer Beast, because he's the frenzy, would move and possibly attack, and then all the witch's hat ones would move, which would be the Displacer Beast and the Beholder again. So then you get 3. You'd be hit 3 times potentially, and you resolve each move and then attack separately. So you could potentially, if you've got the Displacer Beast here activating a couple of times, you could do two lots of two rolls on you.
If the monster happens to attack, it will tell you on the card how many dice that you roll.
Yeah, in the case that card we had, it's 2.
So the Displacer Beast will roll 2 of the red dice. Chuck them out there. Now I've got 1 explodey symbol and 1 blank, so the blank obviously does nothing, but the explodey symbol would mean that I have to lose 1 of my treasure tokens. If I don't have any treasure tokens, you die, you move this along, and you come back to here, which if the monster's there, you're really in trouble.
Now, a couple of things. If Pete was unfortunate and they were actually rolling 3 dice and he managed to roll three hits, which Pete would never ever roll 3
Never, ever. Totally rolled that.
But if you roll 3 hits, then basically you have to take 3 items off you or you die. Now, you might think, actually, I need to be putting items on this Displacer Beast. I can't lose these 3 items. They're too important. You can just say, I'm just going to take the damage. You just die.
Just going to die.
But you don't lose the items. So you literally, if you're in a situation where you haven't got any items or you decide not to use your items to survive, you come off the board and you wait here by the side of the board until your next turn. Bear in mind, the person who's being attacked might not be the person who's active player is. It's whoever is closest to the monsters. So you wait till your next turn, and then immediately, you don't even use an action. Immediately your next turn, you start on the little kind of medical symbol there. You start at the yawning portal, and off you go again. And if you've decided not to use up your items, then you've still got all the items, and you can go straight back into the fray.
So let's say I rolled this. I've got this little critical.
We would hate you if you rolled that.
I would,
2 hits and a crit, which Pete almost never rolls.
Never.
Now, it's not
ever.
called crit in this game, but it is an exclamation mark.
It's
a POW, I think.
POW!
And if you roll a POW, basically it triggers the special ability. Now, the displacer beast is really important because you actually do the POW before any of the hits. That's the first thing you do. The displacer beast, its power is to transport to another fighter. Yeah, I'd be really pleased if you rolled that. As you transport it over, and then I've got 1 item and 2 hits, so I would die, and I'd be thrilled.
And at that point, you'd be like, "Well, I'm going to die anyway. I might as well keep my equipment and just die."
Yes,
just die.
100%, you would do that.
Something we've mentioned several times already now is citizens.
Ba-ba! So I have drawn a card on the monster phase, and it is a citizen card, and it is old Olive Stillwater, who is here. She starts at the Goblin Bazaar. She's a sea hag in Skullport who sells zombies in exchange for blood. She doesn't seem like the nicest of people. So you put
a lot
on
of black pudding.
the Goblin Bazaar, and at the bottom here it says Dead Man's Corner, which is here. The Dead Man's Corner is here. So Olive Stillwater wants to get to Dead Man's Corner. If you can get her to Dead Man's Corner, you can draw a perk card. If she gets eaten by a monster before she gets there, then the terror value goes up by 1. So there's quite some incentive to get the citizens to where you want them to go.
You think normally someone like Olive Stillwater, no one would mind if she was dead, but that's still a bad thing in this case.
It does appear to be. So how do you get the citizens to where you want them to go? Well, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. If you're on the same square as them and you move, you can just take them along with you for free wherever you're going, and they will go along. And then actually that's not a bad way of doing things, because the monster will attack when it gets a choice. It attacks you in preference to the citizens, and equally, actually, we didn't say this, when you're moving the monsters always move towards the nearest citizen or hero.
Yep.
But if the citizens and the heroes are equidistant, it'll always move towards the hero. So it prefers the heroes to the citizens. If for some reason you are not in the same square as the citizen, which you might not be, supposing she starts in the Goblin Bazaar and I'm here, you can use the guide action. So it's another action, light move, but it just enables you to move Olive directly towards you, and then maybe you would move on with her. You haven't got to go and get her and then bring her back. You can just say, "Come on, Olive, let's go this way."
Come on!
And then go that way. And then
Follow the sound of my voice.
if you and Olive were here and you wanted to get her into Dead Man's Corner, but you don't want to use up, you don't want to move that way because then you need to get to here because there's loads of items on that square, say, you can use the guide action again and move her away from you, and then just move 1 to there and pick up the items.
And as soon as the citizen lands in the location you need to get it to, they will come off the board, and you pick up one of these.
Way.
And these are always very nice, as we've had the black staff before, but maybe you get Dress Steward,
which is the best one, because it's Dress Steward.
One of the best ones. The current player takes 2 additional actions, so basically
quite handy.
On Robin's turn I might play this, and instead of his 4 actions he might get 6 instead.
Yeah, that can be clutch.
Yeah, you always want to keep it for yourself, really.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out the perk cards can be used pretty much any time. On any player.
On your player's turns. You can't interrupt a monster.
You can't use a monster, no. You can use them on anybody's. You don't have to just use them on yourself. Use them after a dice roll or whatever to boost things, or when things haven't happened that you want to happen. Like, so if you failed something, you can say, "Oh, actually, I'll give you 2 extra actions so you can have another go." That kind of thing.
That's pretty much the game in a fairly expanded nutshell, but we've pretty much covered all the major actions and how the monsters operate. We haven't covered how you defeat each of the monsters, because they're all kind of like a little mini game, and it's not really worth covering that in detail.
You want to find
in
out
this
for yourself,
video.
because it's good fun. It's all part of the fun.
Exactly.
Hopefully that made sense. I say it's very intuitive once you get going. Basically, you just move around the board, picking up items and then using the items to bash monsters over the head.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how it goes.
It's nice and simple, I think, because it's move around, pick up treasure, fight the monsters in whichever particular way you need to fight them with the treasure in hand. Just a nice little taste of D&D with the areas, the monsters, the equipment. It just really takes you back into that D&D
Exactly.
sort
There's
of.
a nice little nostalgia feel
Yeah.
if you've played before. before. If you haven't played before, it's quite a good introduction. It introduces like the dragon and the beholder, which are quite key D&D things, and the idea of classes.
Yeah.
I've played this with my family. They've never played any D&D before, and they all enjoyed it. They all argued a lot over what each other should do, but they all enjoyed it.
That is exactly the spirit of D&D.
Yeah, exactly.
And anybody who's watched the D&D movie will immediately go, oh, that's one of them creatures with all the tentacles coming off it that looks like a panther.
It does give you that nice feeling of yomping round the Underdark or whatever, looking for treasure.
I do like how, because it's a cooperative game, you do want to be working together as much as possible. You do want to be helping each other out and working as a party, ignoring whatever plan you've just made moments before and crashing off and doing your own thing.
Yeah, it has got that RPG kind of working together feel. You don't really feel like a party because you're all in different places all at the same time. Most of the time. Sometimes you double up, but you can never actually do much. A little bit if you get the right things. You can never do much to help out.
And as everybody knows in D&D, you should never split the party.
No, absolutely. So already off theme there. The 2-player game, I've played with 5. The 2-player game feels much easier, much gentler, because the action economy is the same.
Yep.
So each time you have a fighter, the monsters do something, but you're far spread out when there's 2 of you. There's never anybody on, there might not be anybody close, so then the monster just kind of, I just move, like with Drakar, I already moved 1, so the monster moves 1 towards you, and you're right over here. Like, well, I don't care. When there's 5 of you on the board, you're like never more than about 2, 3 at the most squares away from a monster, one of you. And of course, if you die, then this goes up. So the more players you've got, the faster this goes up. Which I think is why when you start with solo play, it starts on 3.
Yeah.
Because I think you would they'd never find you.
Also, with more players running around means there's less loot for everybody to grab. You still get the same amount of loot coming out, but you've got more bodies picking it up. So in our game, I think I had about 12 or 15 on, but I had loads of them.
That's because you were just basically running out.
I was just running out picking up everything.
I was killing the monsters.
Exactly. But then at some point, you then I've loaded up on treasure, so now I'm going to run off, and then I'm going to mostly take out a monster because I can use loads and loads of treasure really quickly and do 4 actions worth of just taking it out, or suddenly throw all of my treasure over to Robin because he's in the same place as the monster and he can do that bit. But it just means that when you've got less treasure per fighter, fighters are generally less potent as a result of that, and more fragile because they can take less damage before they die.
We haven't done extensive testing, but in our 2-player game, we didn't really struggle to get the items together in the end to defeat the monsters. It was more about just teaching Pete the mechanics. We didn't have to think too much about how to defeat them because it was fairly straightforward. In a 5-player game, I think every game I've had, it's been like victory has been snatched from jaws of defeat a couple of times where people have... You think you know what you're going to do, and then somebody teleports the monsters right to the person who's got the items of the particular colour that is needed to defeat them, and then hits them for 3 damage, and they have to throw them away or die, and then they're over there. So suddenly it was like much more stressful, and kind of had to really kind of plan it, and quite a lot of swapping around of items to try and defeat the monsters. Which brings me on to another small complaint I have about the game. The items are coloured. There's yellow ones, blue ones, and red ones, and certain beasts can only be defeated by certain coloured items. But other than that, the items and what they are is kind of irrelevant. Like
you might have a rod, which is like, it's obviously a magical staff of some kind, but a fighter can use that just as easily as the wizard can.
Yeah, similarly, the Morning Star, the wizard can use it.
Yeah, or the rogue.
I'm guessing it would get too complicated, but I would have liked to see a little thing where maybe each class can use 2 colours without penalty, but if they use a red one, then it's worth 1 less, because they've got a value as well, because sometimes you need to, like to defeat the beholder, you have to use yellow items up to 6.
Yeah.
And I would have liked, well, if you're the cleric, then the yellow items, whatever, you're -1, so then you'd need even more if you were the cleric trying to defeat them. Maybe that wouldn't work in the game, but I just kind of feel like there's literally no penalty or bonus for picking up anything or doing anything with any item.
At least in larger player games, that should be a thing. If you're playing just single player, or if you're playing like 2-player and I'm the cleric, now I'm fighting a monster that I have to use items to defeat that I can't use very well, it's going to be much harder.
But at least you'd know that up front.
Exactly, You could at least make sure I'm not going to take this hero because they can't use the red items as well, and I need them because I'm taking on the Displacer Beast or whatever that might be. There is that to it, and that's maybe possibly our D&D brain going, it doesn't make sense for a wizard to use a Morning Star.
I think it probably is. Similarly, I would like more theme on the actions. or theme, perhaps the wrong word, but just I can understand the bards. Actually, the bards are quite thematic. The
bards make sense. The wizards,
they move stuff.
It's just like I teleport around all over the place.
Yeah, and
where's my fireball?
Even the fighter doesn't really get much option to actually because you don't use items to actually really attack things. You're not really attacking. It doesn't feel like the fighter's kind of like. Well, I can go to the monster and attack it, but it's just the same.
Because it's a D20, it's quite random.
Yeah.
You're just as likely to gain no effect at all as you are to get a 20 and get loads and loads of stuff. So, I mean, we had goes in our game where you're like, I'm going to do this thing. I've rolled 2. Awesome. Yeah. That's really rubbish.
I think for the fighter, it feels particularly bad because, like, literally all I want to do is hit things, and I can't even do that.
Yeah.
And he has an existential crisis, and it just goes home in tears.
Having said that, the hero table is a little bit blah. I do like that all of the players have something that's unique to them, even if I wish that it was a bit more in keeping with that character class. It is nice that everybody's got their thing, and sometimes you're like, oh, we really need the cleric to do this thing next turn, or the bard.
I think when we played, did we play with the fighter and the cleric?
No, I had the wizard.
Oh, you had the wizard. You're right. Of course you did. You used teleport all over. But well, I suppose that's a bit more random, I guess. I think the rogue is very thematic because he gets the items that you then.
Yeah,
he's
steal stuff.
It is nice that they have separate things. I suppose they don't use them as much as I would like.
Yeah.
Probably. Maybe I'm asking too much. I really like the mini games of the monsters.
Yes. That's
really nice. And the mimic's really good fun, and the red dragon's really quite involved and quite complex and will challenge you, which is really nice. And because of that, I think that replayability of the game is pretty high.
I think the only other place where this maybe falls down a bit is when it comes to fighting the monsters. Again, your class mostly doesn't matter.
No.
It doesn't matter if you're a wizard or a bard or a fighter. You're going to all fight the displaced beast in the same way. You have to fill up that little grid, and then once you've done that, you have to get rid of some equipment and roll a dice. That's all it is. But again, this isn't meant to be D&D.
It's not that sort of game.
This isn't D&D.
Exactly. And that's the thing. So, you want it to be D&D, but it's not D&D. But I think it's still really good fun, and it's kind of like a really little short D&D hit, and it's just a good laugh.
Yeah.
Because funny things, especially when you're playing with a wizard, funny things happen when you don't teleport where you're meant to go.
Or you're on that clutch. We need to teleport right now, and you just blip one space over, and you're going. Fantastic. That was great.
And because I think the mini games are quite interesting, and because you can play the monsters in any combination, if you really wanted to, you could even play all 4 on the board at once. The difficulty level can be really quite challenging as you want it to be, and especially if you've got other Horrified games, you can add other monsters in, so you can really keep playing the game and keep challenging you. I think there's 20 different versions of the puzzle for the part of the red dragon, because the red dragon has several bits.
The red dragon is mental. It's multi-stage madness.
I've not actually tried the red dragon yet. I want to get a party of 3 or 4, 5 people and
try and
defeat the red dragon just for sheer fun of it, really. I mean, I know I said this right at the beginning. One of the things I really, really like about the game, and it's a really silly thing to say, the D20 is lovely.
It is a really nice D20.
It's kind of sparkly and weighty.
It's got something on the inside of it somewhere, and the 20 is the D&D symbol. It's just fantastic. I rolled it again. Rolled it at the start. Rolled it at the end.
Fantastic.
That's how you finish this kind of game.
Wasn't even edited. So there you go. So that is Horrified Dungeons and Dragons edition.
It's great for more mature players who've played lots of board games like we have. It's great for families as well because it's not particularly complex.
It's not. It's a good beer and pretzels game. You could almost play this down the pub, or in the Yawning Portal tap room, perhaps.
And I also like the fact that because it's so simple, you don't even really need to know anything about D&D.
No,
you don't have to know anything about it. So you can introduce it to people who don't care a jot about D&D. It's still going to play exactly the same. You have the same level of fun, really.
And you get to introduce them to the wonder of a D20, which everybody should like.
So hopefully you found this useful. If you've got any questions about how the game plays, or if there's anything you think we've missed that you'd like us to explain in more detail, do ask us in the comments below. If you did enjoy this content, please do consider clicking that like button and click that subscribe button, and let us know what you think. Let us know if we should cover more board games. Would you like to see us play this live on the channel at some point? So we'll see you soon, maybe in Waterdeep, or maybe in Undermountain, or maybe in the Underworld. Ooh. Bye.